obviously have some words about the two applications in my ward. In terms of the Carp Airport solar project, that was a fairly easy decision. It's small in nature. It's on land that is going to be developed someday when this area gets city water, and it's being proposed by people who are living in the community right next door. So that one was easy. The rest of my time will be dedicated to talking about the Dunrobin Solar Project. And this was one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in this job. And this decision is not something it's something I've been considering in depth on a daily basis since I became aware of the application. And I will admit, my very first reaction to this application was not positive. I was turned off by the scale of the project and the fact that it was being proposed on land that's currently being farmed. One of the main reasons I put my name on the ballot in 2022 was to keep our community rural, and to achieve that, I plan to work as hard as I can to preserve our farms. Had you asked me for my support on this 2 months ago, I would have said no way. These issues, along with the quality of public consultation and local benefit, were my main considerations. This will come as no surprise to those who have been paying attention to these files over the last 3 years. Many in our community were upset years ago when prime agricultural land was used for a large-scale solar farm at the corner of Valletta Side Road and Highway 17. I can assure members of the community that if that was the case in this scenario, I would not be supportive of this application. But in this case, the land on which this application is being proposed is not zoned agricultural, and it does fall outside of the designated agricultural resource area. I will also add a very important point, that I will continue to evaluate each of these applications on their own merit and the proposed plan. There is a lot of land currently being farmed that is not zoned AG, and my support of this application is not an indication that I will do so again in the future. I believe there is very quality land being farmed that should be protected, and I think there's a serious conversation that we need to have both as a city and with the province about that. However, in this case, the applicant has assured the city on public record just today that they will not be using concrete to secure the panels into the ground. At the end of the life of this project, returning the land to production will be an option. I have also learned about the agricultural work being done on other sites where solar panels are installed in Ward 5 and beyond. There is cover cropping and grazing that can happen. Farmers are being paid to crop and graze their animals, and landowners are still earning money on that same land. A change like this actually increases the opportunities for more agricultural operators to benefit financially. It is also conceivable that as a result of this, biodiversity on the site actually increases. I also consulted with the leadership of our local chapter of the Ontario Farmers Association, who did not have an issue with this application. It is in line with the OFA's provincial guidelines that these projects not be permitted on prime agricultural land. So on the agricultural side of things, I could find no real rationale to oppose this project. One of the other key considerations I make in all situations is the quality of public consultation. I think there was a bit of a rough start, as was acknowledged by the applicant with their first public meeting and some people not being able to log on, including myself. But I will commend the applicant on their response. They quickly agreed to a second in-person session, started working directly with landowners, and started, I believe, genuinely looking for ways to provide direct benefits to those residents who are most affected by this project. I know there are some challenges to doing that, but the effort is there. Westbridge even reduced the size and footprint of the project based on feedback from the city and the public. These are things I have been asking for 2 years. And quite frankly, I think it would be disingenuous for me to not support the applicants who are doing what we have been asking them to do for several years. So we've had decent public consultation, although it's not perfect. That will continue. Feedback has been incorporated into their new plan. There's been a reduction in the size and footprint, and I believe a very minimal net impact on agricultural activity. Now, to Mike and Wanda, I do feel for the residents who will back onto this, and I think that most residents would be able to identify with the feelings you are having about the unknowns of exactly how this will affect you. If I owned one of those properties, would I want this happening behind me? No, I would not. But I think you can take some comfort in the size reduction and this applicant's willingness to work with you, and I and the city on ways to minimize the impact that you might experience. you will still have beautiful view of the Gatineaus. You will have my support and attention as this application moves its way forward, and my commitment that I will continue to be by your side during those conversations. The other thing that I may ask those residents to consider is that this large landmass behind your property is zoned rural countryside and has been for many years, I believe since before amalgamation. And this zoning allows for many, many things. The document that I'm supposed to reference is way over there, but this zoning generally would permit other things such as group homes, retirement homes. There are a decent list of things that could potentially be put there. An animal hospital, an artist studio, a bed and breakfast, a cemetery, environmental preserve, an education area, which I'm sure would be your preference, home-based business, a kennel, on-farm diversified use, which can bring many, many different things, additional dwellings, just to name a few. Another thing to consider is that the IESO procurements are going to keep coming. The province has identified a need for more energy, and whether we like it or not, the companies who provide that power will continue to respond to the RFP process. The transmission lines in our area have capacity, whereas the transmission lines in Orleans, South Navan don't have the same capacity. So if you are against these projects, I think it's necessary to understand that the province is not going to let up. They are going to continue to procure more sources of energy and storage of energy, and that maybe there are times when we need to contemplate what may be proposed here someday if we oppose this, are wind turbines and battery energy storage systems, both of which I believe would have a far greater impact than this installation. This is not new technology. There are no documented issues in Ward 5 because of solar installations already in place. They do not combust, they do not contaminate or take from our groundwater, and this particular project will not have a net negative impact on agriculture in our ward. For those reasons, I have decided to support the staff recommendation to provide an MSR for this project. Thank you.